Welcome to the OLS vidcast. With us today is former Sports Illustrated soccer football writer Luis Bueno, who now covers the great sport for Press Enterprise, and as well as Goal.com and MLSsoccer.com. We're short Brett today. He's on his way to a wedding, but Luis, we appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm always excited to do shows and happy to be here.
Yeah, and actually, truthfully, this is our second take, so Luis has been very gracious because we had some technological problems the first time. I didn't want to cut out that part where we talked about Mexico, and I want to give you some opportunity to talk about your feelings about they're going to do against South Africa, because we talked about history last time, and we talked about how important that is and how the home squad, in this case South Africa, always seems to somehow find their way out of the group. But I wanted to get your sense of how Mexico will fare against South Africa and in the group in general.
Well, certainly against South Africa, you would think that they have a good shot of success, simply because many feel this is Mexico's strongest team, if not in recent World Cups, and ever possibly.
Mm-hmm.
With so many European-based players now on the roster. But when you look at South Africa, the host nation has never lost their first game in the World Cup.
Yeah.
They're 14-0-5 all time. And this includes, teams like Japan and South Korea, who are lesser regarded. In the United States, we didn't have a professional league here in 1994 and still pulled out a 1-1 draw against the European nation in Switzerland. So you think you have to consider, that factor. And I'm not sure what precise role it will play, what it means for Mexico. But what it means, I believe, in the general picture is that South Africa has a strong advantage of playing at home. They're going to be charged. They're going to be excited, emotional. They might have the referee on their side. All sorts of crazy things can happen. I think, South Africa will be a strong test for Mexico.
It'll be certainly a strong test. But, when I saw Benny McCarthy wasn't picked by South Africa, I thought, that makes it even more dire for them up front. But they still seem to be able to score. They pulled out that squeaker versus Denmark. So, that home field advantage, you can't toss it out the window because it is that powerful.
Yeah, you can't just say, well, you can't just focus on South Africa, the team. If this game was being played anywhere else in the world, I don't know how much of a chance South Africa would have. But not only do they have a chance, I believe they're going to be a too strong a team for Mexico to beat tomorrow, or Friday, and I think that I see a draw in this game, to be honest, but I wouldn't be surprised to see South Africa pull out the victory, just because for the things that we've talked about, and an early goal for South Africa could send the 90,000 people there through the roof. And
absolutely,
that could really damage Mexico. And if they don't win, if they lose tomorrow, then they have to come back against France on the 17th, and needing a victory. And I don't know if that's the best scenario for Mexico.
But I think you did mention that Mexico might squeak out of this group anyhow. So if we've got Mexico and South Africa squeaking through, we've got France sitting on the sidelines after the group stage. Yeah,
France is a team that just lost to China recently, and you don't know what France team is going to show up. If they can't beat China, then you would think they would have a difficult time competing in this group, and frankly in any group they were in.
Right.
But France certainly has a quality to not just get out of this group, but maybe get the quarterfinals and possibly beyond. But this is not an easy group for anybody to think that any of these teams is a good position. It's not. Any of the teams could finish first, and any of them could finish last.
So let's just say Mexico squeaks out of this group. Are they getting beyond the round of 16, or are they pretty much limited to that? I mean, is that where the game stops for them?
Well, the one thing that I look at, and I'm a big proponent of history in the World Cup and what it means, and you just go back throughout the history of the tournament, and the teams that get to the final, that get to the semifinals, more often than not have world-class players on their roster. And, does Mexico have any world-class players on the roster? They have a lot of talent on the roster.
Right.
They have a lot of young talent on the roster, but I don't know that they have that guy that can lead a team, can carry a team. A lot of people are pegging their hopes on Giovanni Dos Santos, Javier Hernandez obviously joining Manchester United,
right.
Carlos Vela, but these guys are 22. They're young. They're very young, and to expect guys like that to carry a team like Mexico, who always finds a reason to fail in the World Cup, I don't know. That might be asking too much.
Well, it's kind of it kind of leads us to the next question about the United States, which is, again, more young kids. We don't think of Bradley and some of the other guys on the team as being young because they've been playing for us for the last 3 or 4 years. But, man, that's a young team too. And maybe Jamie Trecker was right when he said it's just going to be too much to expect the United States. It'll be great if they get out of the group, but, can they actually get any further? As usual, the U.S. press, when you look at some of the major headlines, can the United States win the World Cup? Do you think that's a little premature based on what you know of this group?
To mention the U.S. and the World Cup final in the same breath is, I think, a little bit ambitious.
Right.
Frankly, it's really ambitious.
Right.
I think if the World Cup is here in the United States, okay, then maybe we have room to talk. But I don't think that all hope is lost, though. I'm not quite as pessimistic as not just Jamie, but I've seen other predictions. For the United States to not do so well. I believe that. Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey, obviously they've each scored at the World Cup before, and both of them are much better now than they were 4 years ago. And I think both of them are determined. And, same with Tim Howard. Tim Howard will come in, obviously, play his first World Cup. And, those three players are just, they're the kind of players that you need to carry your team far. And can the U.S. go far? I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run. I do expect them to get out of the group. How many games they can win in the knockout round, I think depends on who they're playing next. But I don't foresee doom for the U.S. this time around.